Hello and welcome again to River Valley Farm. Today we have, well, more or less, the stupid Ford 961 Powermaster has let me down for the last time. I attempted to use it a couple of weeks ago and the needle valve that goes in here fell out of the carburetor. Yeah, it's been nothing but problems. This fell out of the carburetor. I didn't even notice that. It was pouring gas out of the bottom of the fuel tank, where the line that goes here was screwed into the bottom of the fuel tank. So I've had this tractor torn completely apart and dealt with it, everything. Bad YouTuber me, I did not film any of it because it's been rather hectic around here. We're getting a barn built, we're doing this, we're doing that. Yeah, anyway, as I said, it's been rather hectic around here. So this is a Marvel Schleber, or however you say that, TSX 662 model carburetor. Okay, this was used in several model gasoline Ford tractors, like most of them, smaller Massey Ferguson gas tractors, and this was used by most all of the 100 series Ford tractors, a lot of the Massey Ferguson gas tractors. I really don't know what else, but anyway, if you deal with old tractors, you're pretty likely to run into one of these things. So, yeah, anyway, I have here a rebuild kit from my local Napa store. It's a pretty inclusive kit. Not the most inclusive kit I've ever seen, but a pretty inclusive kit. Anyway, if I can get it out of the box without losing it. So we got some gaskets and seals and stuff. Yeah, miscellaneous stuff, basically. So we're gonna rip this thing apart, see if we can put it back together again and make it work. So let me, I'm just going to go ahead and disassemble it, and then I'll show you what I come up with. Okay, so this thing has been together for a really long time. The float pin doesn't even want to come out, really, but and the needle valve disappeared somewhere because it's so stuck together. Hopefully we can find that. If not, we have a new one. But yeah, this is a very old gasket here, so it didn't just pop apart like some things do. But anyway, the piece that I was really concerned with out of it all was that screw, which is what I need to look for in this kit. So let me do that real quick. Maybe if I can get into the box. It looks like it would work, other than it doesn't thread in there very well. So we may be missing another piece. That won't be good. We got a new needle seat. gaskets to choose from. I don't rightly know what that little gadget there is for yet. Anyway, let me keep going. I'll get this thing tore apart the rest of the way and cleaned up, and we'll see what we come up with. Alright, so here we have our idle air mixture screw, which we were provided with a new one of those in our kit, so we're going to replace that like so, and then I'll have to adjust it and all that good stuff. But anyway, oh, if it'll go in there. Something doesn't act right with that. Something doesn't act right with that. That one screws right in, so we may just have to use the old one over again, which isn't all that uncommon. And I will have to go back and adjust this screw again once we get the carburetor back on the tractor, but that'll probably be in a separate video because this one's going to run long, I can tell. But anyway, we'll just put it in there like so. It was in, you pretty much couldn't even see the spring on it before, so I don't know what that's all about. But anyway, I did manage to find our old needle valve here. If you've watched any of my previous carburetor videos, I've said keep the old one because it does not have a rubber tip on it. Okay, like say, let me see if I can get into this one without losing everything else. I don't know if you can really see this or not, but that is a rubber tip on the end of this new needle valve. I don't know if you guys can see how that bends or not, but that's just not a good idea. I don't know what they make that rubber out of, but every time I put one of these in, it leaks. So, and then you end up with gas running out of the choke bore on the carburetor and all kinds of other fun stuff, and it's just not really worth it. So if you have this piece, keep it and reuse it. It'll save you a lot of headaches in the future. And your needle valve goes right in here. It goes in behind, underneath, or well, it actually sits on top of the float, and it plugs off your fuel inlet when the carburetor is full. So, I don't, let's see, I do have a new needle seat. So, I'm going to get this thing out here. Do have a new needle seat here, which requires this washer so that it doesn't leak. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to replace the seat, reuse the old, what do I do with it now? Oh, there it is. Reuse this old needle valve as so. Yep, that one will work out just fine with our new seat. It sticks up just slightly, so when the float comes up, when the carburetor fills up, it'll pinch that off and won't let fuel flow in. So that's the ultimate goal here, is not to let fuel run into the carburetor after you shut the tractor off. Let me get going on this again. Alright, so it looks like we're going back with the old needle valve and seat. We're going to use the old seat over again. It does seal with this valve, so we're not going to hurt anything there. Thing is this one does not want to come out, and I'm not in the mood to try and figure out what size drill bit I need to drill that thing out, so then I can try and tap it out. And this one, yeah, it looks like it's the right size, but you know, hey, this is a hurry up rebuild so I can get the tractor back to work, so you know, we're just gonna go with what we got and what we can do here. Might not necessarily be the right way, but it's the way we're going to do it today. Alright, so next step in our process here is going to be to inspect the float. I don't have a scale or even the spec for how much the float should weigh. More or less, I don't hear anything rattling around in it. It's not sloshing anything. I can't see any damage that looks like it'd make the float leak. So we are going to reuse the float also, because these are very hard to come by, I would think. At least they are for the Zenith carburetors on farm all tractors and stuff. They're available, but when you do find one, they are very expensive. Most of the time you're better off just to buy a new carburetor at that point in time, which since I have such a very much of a hate relationship with this Ford tractor, I'm not going to put a new carburetor on it, because they're $360, I think, is about the average price of those things. And to me, the tractor just isn't worth it. But anyway, we're going to get this put back on, and we'll go from there. Or, well, actually, we have to select our bowl gasket first and put it on, which is kind of obvious in this case. I don't know what this one is supposed to fit for this carburetor, but not my carburetor, more or less. But this one here does work out just fine. Okay, so we've got our new gasket on there. Oh, we can't forget the throat. This is how they accomplished being able to put this on so many different tractors. They had a removable throat piece, such as this, that lets you switch out. If you're familiar with NASCAR or anything like that, this is more or less your restrictor plate right here. So it's only going to let it suck so much fuel and air into the engine, and you know, that way you can change the CFM of the carburetor without having to change to a different model carburetor. International and Farmall didn't do that so much. They built, well, like say for instance, Farmall C, such as that uses the same carburetor on that tractor as does that B over there, and this 140. They're all the same. It's the same, pretty much the same engine, same carburetor. Okay. Ford used the same carburetor on many different engines. Instead of having an engine and a carburetor to go with said engine, they used this carburetor on a lot of different models and made it so that yeah, anyway, it was probably easier for them, but to me, I'd rather have a fixed bore carburetor than having to use this little piece. It makes it a lot simpler in my mind. I'm not one that tends to live for simplicity, but then again, sometimes it's just nice. So yeah, now we got to remember how to put this all on here, which we've got to have this spring and this little piece here, and I am going to use the new pin because the other one, whatever I did with it, is slightly worn. As I said, whatever I did with it, you can see where it's been, where the float has been riding on that pin for a long time. So we're going to do away with it. Anyway, our float goes in like so, and then this spring sits on that piece, and the whole mess. Now what do I do with the pin again? I'll tell you, I'm getting horrible today. Okay, let me find this and then I'll get back to you. Okay, so we've got our pin and spring and float all back in there like it's supposed to be. That spring is just a helper spring to help close push the float back up, and it's not much of a spring at all, but hey, it's in there, so we're going to keep it in there. Now our next step is to actually, I'm going to have to scrape on that some more and get that cleaned up a little bit better, but then we are going to join these two pieces of the carburetor back together and then figure out what we're going to do with this, because this screw is not the right screw for this, and I am out of screws other than that. But it may still work. I don't know. I gonna have to think about this a little bit. What I think we're going to end up doing is we'll have a new gasket for this piece right here, and then just kind of back this screw out a little bit, and then maybe either braze or solder this hole shut so it won't leak gas and the screw won't fall out, and then I will see if I can track down a better kit for this carburetor and get this piece out of it so we can get this done the right way. I think like Steiner tractor parts, they usually have really good kits for them. My old friend in Beebe, Indiana, Martin's Farm Supply, he might actually have a whole carburetor sitting over there that needs something done to it that we can have this piece out of, in which case we got to get this done. But for today, that's what we're going to do, I think, is we're just going to braze this shut and call it good. Because all we got to do is have it to where it does not leak. Okay, so I've got our little piece here in the vise. And I've got some brazing rod here, which I should probably cut off. But we'll just see what it does. So yeah, we're just going to use an oxyacetylene torch. I'll try not to burn the camera up, that would be bad. But and then we're just going to heat this up until the braze starts to melt. We'll see what happens after that. Well, okay. The little screw is going to melt before the braze does. How about that? So we'll just use it to plug the hole. Okay then, so that should be good for that. Now we gotta wait and let this thing cool off, obviously, because we don't want to touch it right now. But anyway, there is a nicely brazed hole plug in that thing, and we still have the needle in there. As I said, it's set so that the jet will still be able to pull fuel. It may be rich, it may be lean. I just really need this tractor to run right now, so as I said before, we're going to have to track down a new piece. Anyway, guys, get this camera pointed at me a little bit. There we go. The Ford, I got sick of it not starting, so we also did a 12-volt conversion on it, and boy does it ever crank and start now. I was taking it back to my mom's house to do some prep for the new barn that's being built. We're getting a 30 by 50. It's going to be just a gravel floored equipment shed, nothing real fancy, but a 30 by 50 barn back there, so we got some place to put you know, Mom's camper, the F20, both the C's, the B, the 140, and the stupid Ford, and whatever else I can fit in there basically is all going to be in that barn back there, so that we don't have to worry about this one falling down on top of all this stuff anymore. And then, you know, once I get everything, all the big stuff moved back there, then I've got to go through all this stuff that's in this barn and figure out what's junk, what's worth keeping, what I can sell to somebody else. And then the plan is anyways that we're just going to tear this one down so that it doesn't fall on anyone. That would probably be an excellent idea. I don't know, I think I covered in a previous video back last year sometime about just how poor shape this old barn is in, really. The whole south wall, the posts are just junk on it. As far as that goes, the only wall that is still good on it is the north wall. And the only thing that's really kept this barn standing for as long as it has been is the fact that it is, well, number one, sheltered by trees, because it's on a pretty high point around here. But it's got trees all along the west end over here, which is the direction that most of our wind and storms come from. But anyway, and it's got trees all the way around the north side of it also over here. As you can see, we're pretty well completely surrounded. But anyway, you know, it's just an old type tobacco barn, so there's not much to it. I would really like not to have to tear the whole thing down, but then again, we would have to piece apart this whole side over here, which is, I think, like, it would be about a 13, I think it's like 12 foot. It's 12 feet wide to take this one bent, or one whole side off the barn. It's 12 feet wide, and is it 84 feet long, if I remember right. And then that would leave us with a 24 by 80 barn up here that is 30 feet tall. But I think for, you know, all intensive purposes, it's just going to be better off just to take it all down. The interior posts here on this driveway are all good, but the end posts at this end are not that good. Termites and rot and what have you. So yeah, I think I said termites and rot and what have you, and then I hit the button. But anyway, so yeah, we're going to be looking forward to a moving day coming up here before long, because my barn builder is ordering metal on Monday to do that with, and we'll be getting stuff sorted out up here, moving it back to the back and getting, all the tractors, as I said, all the tractors and good equipment are going to be going in that shed, so we'll just have to see what the rest of it brings. Hopefully once we get all the tractors and stuff out of here, we'll be able, or better able anyway, to kind of sort out the rest of this stuff, because there's a whole lot of stuff up here. Anyway, let me go see if that piece is cooled off, and we'll get this carburetor finished assembled, which actually it's all put back together now. We got our new gasket there. I don't know if this is just a gasket. It looks, it's flexible like a gasket, so I'm hoping that is just a gasket and we won't have to have that piece as a spacer, but I'm not going to throw it away yet anyway. Get those nuts back on there. Anyway, guys, that's pretty much it. All I got to do is wait on that piece to cool down, put it back in here. So thanks for watching. Please comment, rate, and subscribe, and hopefully today I'm going to film anyway a video of adjusting this carburetor so that the dang thing will run right. But anyway, we'll talk to you later, and hopefully things will settle down here a little bit, or maybe really hopefully it'll actually quit raining, because it's supposed to rain for the next 7 days, so I really don't see that happening anytime soon. So stay tuned for more repair videos instead of farm videos.